All right, we should get started,
Ooh,
eh?
let's go. Hey, yeah. Do you want me
All
to
Woohoo!
right.
start?
You could start, Archie, if you so desire.
I love this. I love these first lines. So everyone pay attention. I'm not going to
Yep.
repeat it. Okay, maybe I will. All right. Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 26. See, this day I set before you blessing and curse. Blessing if you obey the commandments of the eternal your God that I enjoin upon you this day, and curse if you do not obey the commandments of the eternal your God, but turn away from the path that I enjoin upon you this day, and follow other gods whom you have not experienced. When the eternal your God brings you into the land that you are about to enter and possess, you shall pronounce the blessing at Mount Gerizim at the curse and the curse at Mount Ebal. Both are on the other side of the Jordan, beyond the west road that is in the land of the Canaanites who dwell in the Arabah near Gilgal by the terebinths of Moreh. For you are about to cross the Jordan to enter and possess the land that the eternal your God is assigning to you. When you have occupied it and are settled in it, take care to observe all the laws and rules that I have set before you this day. This is, to me, this is one of the most important, the whole line of, I set in front of you this day. I set this in front of you, a blessing or a curse. It's like every day we get to choose. Are we going to choose a blessing or are we not going to choose a blessing? So it's almost like,
It's all
what?
cause and
Ooh,
effect. It's cause and effect, and we get to choose, you know what I mean? What the cause
oh yeah,
is, which in turn can help out influence the effect. I'm just
that's right.
emailing Braca real quick, so maybe she'll get it.
Sweet. And do you want to change the picture?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me do that. Whoa, 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 whoa. Hold it.
My microphone has gone dead. Hello, can you still hear me? Okay,
We can hear you. We can
Probably
hear
not.
you. Yeah.
excellent. These are the laws and the rules that you must carefully observe in the land that the eternal God of your ancestors is giving you to possess as long as you live on earth. You must destroy all the sites at which the nations you are to dispossess worship their gods, whether on lofty mountains and on hills or under any luxuriant tree. Tear down their altars, smash their pillars, put their sacred posts to the fire, and cut down the images of their gods, obliterating them and their name from that site. Do not worship the eternal your God in like manner, but look only to the site that the eternal your God will choose amidst all of your tribes as God's habitation, to establish the divine name there. There you are to go, and there you are to bring your burnt offerings and other sacrifices, your tithes and contributions, your votive and free will offerings. Wow. And the firstlings of your herds and flocks, together with your households, you shall feast there before the eternal your God, happy in all the undertakings in which the eternal your God has blessed you. Oh my gosh, let's do that again. Let's bring this back. Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the greatest? This week and last week's are two of my favorite.
What is votive? What does that mean?
I
What does it mean?
votive. I
Yeah,
believe it's just a devotional
Where
offering.
is it? Where is it?
Votive.
we just passed it.
It's the previous page.
Down here?
Yeah.
Oh, right here.
Yeah. I believe it's like
Say-
a devotional.
Does it say anything here?
It comes, the
There
root
it
seems
is.
to come from there.
Fulfill a vow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see it.
There I see it's down to the right-hand corner. Votive offerings,
Oh,
made
what?
to fulfill a vow. So it's
Oh.
What is it?
it's how, I guess I'm assuming it's
Oh, I see it right at the bottom there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, I see it. There you go. Good catch. All right. Wait, where are we now? Wait a second. You already
I just
did
love the idea of like sitting down with the
Hello?
eternal your God and just having
Mash,
dinner.
I can't. Hold on, I'm on a Zoom thing. Hold on.
It's okay.
All right.
You're all set, Cynthia.
Yeah. All right, I'll go on to number 8. You shall not act at all as we now act here, each householder as he pleases, because you have not yet come to the allotted haven that the Eternal your God is giving you. When you cross the Jordan and settle in the land that the Eternal your God is allotting to you, and God grants you safety from all your enemies around you, and you live in security, then you must bring everything that I command you to the site where the Eternal your God will choose to establish the divine name, your burnt offerings and other sacrifices, your tithes and contributions, and the choice votive offerings, and that you vow to the Eternal. And you shall rejoice before the Eternal your God with your sons and daughters, and with your male and female slaves, along with the family of the Levite in your settlements, for he has no, or they have no territorial allotment among you. So this is another votive offering. So that's a vow to the Eternal, right? That what Monique was brought up. So what would be a vow to the Eternal? Like I make a vow this day to the Eternal. I vowed to do this, or I vowed to do that. I think we lost Cynthia.
Maybe to not have any other gods besides God.
Absolutely.
Not have any
Yeah.
What's
gods.
votive
Right.
offerings?
That would be a biggie. I think other vows too. You know, when I'm hearing this, I kind of think of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, because we talk a lot about vows during our prayers at
Kol Nidre.
Kol Nidre. So I
Yeah.
thought this is interesting. This is like the premise to Kol Nidre, which is interesting. Yeah,
We're not too far away from it.
that's right. We're getting closer and closer.
Yeah, next month, right?
What happened to Cynthia?
I don't know.
Her phone rang and then she got off. I think she got off.
I think what happened, she probably had a phone call she had to answer. She didn't want to disturb us.
I muted her so she didn't have to worry, but then she got off. I can't believe how I screwed up tonight, but I'm glad I got us all
Hey,
set. I
listen,
hope Rocky
we're
gets-
human beings. Remember that.
Yeah, I know.
Not
Stop
me.
Will you stop beating each other up? I don't know why people beat themselves up so much.
I don't
They
know
really
what I
do.
am. Human, I don't know.
I'm the cheerleader
Sugar's
here.
more like
Yeah, Ruthie, you're the best we got. The fightiest and the most energetic. I think I'll take a pause for reading right now. Does anyone
I'll
wanna-
go on if you'd like.
All right, we're at number 13, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
So
Let me
13.
just do one.
yeah.
Okay. Take care not to sacrifice your burnt offerings in any place you like, but only in the place that the Eternal will choose in one of your tribal territories. There you just went up before I finished the sentence, but there you shall
sorry.
something, and there you shall observe all that I enjoin upon you. But whenever you desire, you may slaughter and eat meat in any of your settlements according to the blessing the Eternal your God has granted you. The impure and the pure alike may partake in it as the gazelle and the deer. But you must not partake of the blood. You shall pour it out on the ground like water. This is all kosher stuff now. You may not partake in your settlements of the tithes of your new grain or wine or oil, or of the firstlings of your herds and flocks, or any of the votive offerings that you vow, or your free will offerings, or of your contributions. These you must consume before the Eternal your God, in the place that the Eternal your God will choose. You and your sons and your daughters, your male and female slaves, and the family of the Levite in your settlements. Happy before the Eternal your God in all your undertakings. Be sure not to neglect the family of the Levite as long as you live in your land. When the Eternal enlarges your territory, as promised, and you say, I shall eat some meat, for you have the urge to eat meat, you may eat meat whenever you wish. If the place where the Eternal has chosen to establish the divine name is too far from you, you may slaughter any of the cattle or sheep that the Eternal gives you, as I have instructed you, and you may eat to your heart's content in your settlements. Eat it, however, as the gazelle and the deer are eaten. The impure may eat it together with the pure, but make sure that you do not partake of the blood, for the blood is the life, and you must not consume the life with the flesh. You must not partake of it. You bring it up. You, with you, and with your descendants to come, for you will be doing what is right in the right of the eternal. But such sacred and votive donations as you may have shall be taken by you to the site that the eternal will choose. You shall offer your burnt offerings, both the flesh and the blood, on the altar of the eternal your God, and of your own sacrifices the blood shall be poured out on the altar of the eternal your God, and you shall eat the flesh. Be careful to heed all these commandments that I enjoin upon you, thus it will go well with you and your descendants after you forever. For you will be doing what is good and right in the sight of the eternal your God. That's a heavy duty paragraph right there.
Good stuff.
That's heavy duty. Okay. When the eternal your God has cut down before you the nations that you are about to enter and dispossess, and you have dispossessed them and settled in their land, beware of being lured into their ways after they've been wiped out before you. Do not inquire about their gods, saying, how did those nations worship their gods? I too will follow those practices. You shall not act thus toward the eternal your God, for they perform for their gods every abhorrent act that the eternal detests. They even offer up the sons and daughters in fire to their gods. Be careful to observe only that which I enjoin you, neither add to it nor take away from it. Where did I just end? What happened? Okay. Okay, now you're going up. I'm sorry. Go ahead. If there appears, there was another. If there appears among you a prophet or a dream diviner who gives you a sign or a portent, saying, let us follow and worship another God whom you have not experienced, even in the sign or portent named to you comes true, do not heed the words of that prophet or that dream diviner, for the eternal your God is testing you to see whether you really love the eternal your God with all your heart and soul. I have to just stop here. This is very, very powerful.
You know what I like?
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What's so powerful about this is that, these people are just learning how to follow this. And just think about that. They're saying, you just do this because you're going to be lured all the time. And let's face it, all our lives, we have these little medicine men that come up in our lives, trying to sell us things, It's really interesting how he's giving you these warnings so early in the beginning of their new life. Don't you find this interesting? Hello, anybody?
Find this interesting. They even offer up their sons and their daughters like in fire to their gods.
Right. This is very powerful stuff. I'm really blown away by this. Okay.
I think Dr. Ed mentioned this a while back,
Yeah.
when he was talking about how it was just establishing everything, and they were talking about people that actually would sacrifice their
Right.
children,
Right.
bunch of
Really?
machines, my opinion.
It's really amazing. Okay,
Yeah.
so be careful to heed all these commandments that. Wait, where'd you just go?
Oh, wait, were we back there? No, we were down here. I'm sorry.
Okay, where are we? Okay, okay. Oh, wait a minute. I stopped somewhere. Wait a minute. It is the eternal your God alone whom you shall follow, whom you shall revere, whose commandments you shall observe, whose orders you shall heed, whom you shall worship, and to whom you shall hold fast. As for that prophet or dream diviner, such a one shall be put to death for having urged disloyalty to the eternal your God, who freed you from the land of Egypt and who redeemed you from the house of bondage, to make you stray from the path that the eternal your God commanded you to follow. Thus you will sweep out evil from your midst. This is very powerful. If your brother, their own mother's son, or your son or son's daughter, or the wife of your bosom, or your closest friend entices you in secret, saying, the prophets, saying, come, let us worship other gods whom neither you nor your ancestors have experienced, from among the gods of the peoples around you, either near to you or distant, anywhere from one end of the earth to the other. Do not assent or give heed to any of them. Show no pity or compassion, and do not cover up the matter, but take that person's life, let your hand be the first to put that person to death, followed by the hand of the rest of the people. Stone that person to death for having sought to make you stray from the eternal your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thus all Israel will hear and be afraid, and such evil things will not be done again in your midst. This is woof.
Cynthia should be here for this.
Yeah, Cynthia should be here for this. This is true.
She'd love this.
Yeah. If you hear it said of one of the towns that the eternal your God is giving you to dwell in, that some scoundrels from among you have gone and subverted the inhabitants of their town, saying, come, let us worship other gods whom you have not experienced. You shall investigate and inquire and interrogate thoroughly. It is true. The fact is established that abhorrent thing was perpetrated in your midst. Put the inhabitants of that town to the sword, and put its cattle to the sword. Doom it and all that it is to destruction. Gather all its spoil into the open square, and burn the town and all its spoil as a holocaust to the eternal your God, and it shall remain an everlasting ruin, never to be rebuilt. Let nothing that has been doomed stick to your hand, in order that eternal may turn from a blazing anger, and show you compassion, and compassion increase you as promised on oath to your fathers. For you will be heeding the eternal your God, obeying all the divine commandments that I enjoin upon you this day, doing what is right in the sight of the eternal your God.
Woo!
This is a lot of stuff here. You are children of the eternal your God. You shall not gash yourselves or shave the front of your heads because of the dead. For you are a people consecrated. I wonder what that means. You should not shave the front of your heads because of the dead. Is that something they used to do a lot? They used to shave their heads? Okay. For you are a people.
If you look down below, it'll say, or shave, addressed in
Where are
Leviticus
we?
21.
Okay, 21. To the priest head, to every the rule is to forbid the practice. Oh, like tattooing. I see. Okay. All right. Okay. So where am I now? I just lost my place. Sorry. For you be heeding that you're within. Okay. For you are a people consecrated to the eternal your God. The eternal your God chose you from among all other peoples on earth to be a treasured people. You shall not eat anything abhorrent.
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
Can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
Hey, Janice is here.
I had a hard time getting in. But
Yeah,
I
we all
finally
did.
got in.
Yeah, there was
it
a problem. I
for a
screwed up.
while. We all had problems. It wasn't you, Janice.
Oh, okay.
You get your hair done, Janice?
Looks
You
delightful.
froze.
Janice, everything's okay now. We just had a little problem, everybody getting in.
Janice has a lovely hairdo. It looks like she just had her hair done.
Oh, I'll have to take a look. Hold on. Let me see. Oops, I lost her.
Frozen. There you
What?
go.
There it is.
You okay now, Janice? Oh.
No, I
All of
can't
a sudden, I lost all the
I
people.
can hear you. I can hear you, but
Oh,
can't
I
see.
see you, Janice. Okay, good.
We
I
see
can't see
you.
anything.
We
Okay.
see you.
How many people are on right now?
5.
Oh, you know what? The people from Florida probably had trouble getting on.
Yeah.
I sent Brocker an email. Dr.
Oh, you
Mike
did?
is probably busy. But
Yeah, that's too bad.
I sent Brocker an email now, but I don't know if she'll get
She
it.
might not have gotten it. Yeah.
If I had her phone number, I would have texted her.
Yeah, it's too bad. All right, so
What,
where did I stop?
Can we just talk about what we just read? It's so
Oh, yeah.
amazing. It's pretty harsh stuff, right? I mean, it's too bad Cynthia's not here, but it's like, I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of positive and negative all at once. You know, we went from a positive, you're going to be settled in the land and you're going to just have lunch with God every day and it's going to be fantastic. But once you get in there, no mercy. It's going to be wiping out the land. So it's pretty tough, isn't it? It's hard to, it's got like the positive and the negative, right?
Right.
Yin and yang. Isn't that what the universe
Yeah.
is? It's just
That's
opposing
right.
forces.
That's
Yeah.
right. Everything is yin
Varying
and yang.
degrees.
I
Yeah.
think the message is really strong that God doesn't want the Jewish people to worship any other gods.
Well,
That's
that's
right.
definite.
Yeah.
And that it's
absolutely.
like Ruthie was saying too, like Ed said too. It's like this is the establishment of it.
Yeah.
And like,
This
you know,
is
we're
the
talking
beginning.
about people that would sacrifice. I love my son. I mean, God bless Abraham, what he was willing to do.
I know.
I love God, but I don't think I could go that far,
I don't know. I could never. But I
But
think it
here
was
we're
just a
talking
test.
about, yeah, but I'm saying, but here we're talking about the fact that for like other cultures or whatever, it
Right.
was part of their life.
Right. It was part of their life.
Yeah.
And then what's
do you
so
think-
sad, wait a minute, what's really sad is there are people today that take their children and they become, what's it called? When you put your children in harm's way,
Yep.
they've done that. They've used their own children as sacrifices. That's really sad. It's happening today. We're not talking about thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, look at, there's been some nations that have been using what's it called? They use their children as human shields. That's what I was trying to say. That's upsetting to me.
Yep.
Okay, so where am I now? Okay, so
Right.
if you shall eat anything abhorrent, these, okay, we got to go to the next thing. These are the animals that you may eat: the ox, the sheep, and the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roebuck. What's a roebuck? Sears roebuck.
There you go.
I'm sorry. The roebuck, the wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, the mountain sheep, and any other animal that has true hoofs which are cleft in two and brings up the cud, such you may eat. But the following which do bring up the cud or have true hoofs which are cleft, though you may not eat: the camel, the hare, and the daemon. For although they bring up the cud, they have no true hoofs. They are impure for you. Also the swine, for although it is true hoofs, it does not bring up the cud. It is impure for you. You shall not eat of their flesh or touch their carcasses. These you may eat of all that live in water. You may eat anything that has fins and scales, but you may not eat anything that has no fins and scales. It is impure for you. You may eat any pure bird. The following you may not eat: the eagle, the vulture, and the black vulture. Well, I wonder why, because they're kind of vulture animals. Is that why?
They eat the dead.
Yeah, they eat the dead. Okay. The kite, the falcon, and the buzzard of any variety. Every variety of raven, the ostrich, the nighthawk, the seagull, and the hawk of any variety. The little owl, the great owl, and the white owl. The pelican, the bustard, and the cormorant. The stork, any variety of heron, the hoopoe, and the bat. Oh, I wouldn't want to eat a bat, that's for sure. All winged swarming things you are impure for you. Oh, I'm sorry. Was I reading something I wasn't supposed to be reading? I was reading something and then you took it away. Wait a minute. These you may eat of. Okay, wait a minute. All winged swarming things that are impure for you may not be eaten. You may eat only pure winged creatures. You shall not eat anything that has died a natural death. Give it to the stranger in your community to eat, or you may sell it to a foreigner. For you are a people consecrated to the eternal your God. You shall not boil a kid in its mother's milk. Now, I want to read something about this because I've always felt that this was never explained. You shall not boil. The prohibition occurs. Can you bring this up a little bit? I want to read something here.
Which
The
part?
prohibition. I can't. You can't bring that up right here over
Which
here.
part? Where was it?
Wait a minute. I want to read something.
Gary
Something's wrong.
realizes now that it's very hard to.
This here?
Okay,
it's
this
very
prohibition
delicate.
occurs twice more in the Torah, and it's exactly the same formulation. The purpose of the law is not clear. Rabbinic Judaism developed the command into a cornerstone of dietary law and saw it as a prohibition of eating milk and meat together. See, but that's the rabbis. I still believe to this day that wasn't from God. He said not to boil a kid in its mother's milk. That I could understand, but that has nothing to do about eating the milk. I feel that the rabbis made a whole big to-do about eating dairy with meat, and I really feel that the whole kosher part of that part is kind of impure. I don't think it's from God, is what I'm saying. I've always had a problem with that.
Do you like cheeseburgers? Is that right, Ruth?
No, it's not about me liking dairy with meat. I just don't like that it was never explained. Like everything else is explained clearly. Explains why you don't eat like those birds that are vultures and everything, and you don't eat like lobsters because they're the ones that go down at the bottom of the sea and they eat all the the crud and stuff. I understand all that. I just don't understand about the dairy and the meat from God. He's saying don't boil a kid in its mother's milk. It has nothing to do with eating. That's what I have a problem with. I've had a problem all my life about this. I had arguments with my husband who was Orthodox about this, and he agreed with me. He says, we really don't know, but the rabbis said that, and so we follow the rabbis. But I really never felt comfortable about this one part of kosher. That's my 2 cents worth. We'll go on now.
No, I like it. I want to hear other people's opinions. I agree with you. I like it.
Yeah, it's not about
it's
like
weird because I'll eat a cheeseburger, but yet the idea of milk and meat together almost makes me want to retch.
See, it doesn't to me.
Ruthie, I don't know if you remember when at TTI. Do you remember when we had that event shortly before we consolidated with the Muslims?
Yeah.
I was talking with the imam, and we were talking about, because he was talking about dietary laws, and I don't know.
So like I've had like fish with cheese. Fish with cheese is just like meat with cheese to me. You know what I'm saying? I don't see that. I just, anyways, that's the only thing I had to say.
What I think
What'd you
is,
say?
I think of it as a sacrifice. I think of it as a sacrifice when I don't put the cheese with the meat. And I think of it more as a sacrifice because we're eating the meat. Because I think I get from the Torah that we more freely can eat the fish in the water, but eating the meat of the animals, which are slaughtered in many different ways, if it's not kosher is also it's more of a do things to sacrifice.
I understand, and that's good that you have that opinion. I just have
Yeah,
had,
that's my opinion.
yeah, and I respect that a lot, Janice. I've just, of all the kosher stuff, I can accept almost everything except I've always had a problem with the dairy and meat thing because of what they said, boiling a kid in its mother's milk. There's been nothing else explained about it except what the rabbis do in interpreting it, which is different than what we're learning from the Torah. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong, I'm just saying that's just been my issue. It's my issue. It doesn't have to be anybody else's issue.
I mean, and the other thing too is that if we just read it as at face value, I think it's a very good commandment. Like, yeah, don't do that. That would be, to think of killing.
Well, that means boiling a child in the mother's milk. I mean, that would be horrible, of course.
Oh, it would be horrible. Even in the animal kingdom, even in the animal kingdom, it's a horrible idea.
Right.
So
I do understand.
It's a great commandment. Yeah. I mean,
I know. I have no
we don't
problem
do that.
not boiling any kid in any mother's milk. That I agree.
In other parts of the Torah, this is interesting because we talk about there's one, I forget which parsha it is. We haven't done it yet, but it will be coming up, I think. And it talks about the value of what seems like the most insignificant mitzvah. And I think the simplest mitzvah I think that the Torah talks about is if you're taking like some kind of bird to eat, as you're walking, you chase the mother away and just take the eggs. You don't kill the mother and eat the mother. You chase the mother away. So as you approach the eggs, the simplest little noise that you make or whatever that causes the mother to fly away so she can have more eggs.
Incidentally, I just want to mention that there's something going on right now. My daughter in her house, there is a bird has made a mess, and they have the little babies birds, and they keep on. And my daughter says, "You have to be quiet." He said, "Because we don't want anything to happen, so that the mother flies away and doesn't feed and the father feeds too." And so the mother and father keep on going back and forth and feeding the little, birdies. And I just think it's so sweet. It's very sweet. I think
with the way everything is so fluid now, I think men should be able to breastfeed. If I was younger and having a child now, I'd consider it.
All right.
But I'm saying that in some ways, I not really like, I don't think it means this, but in a vague way, you could maybe say the idea of boiling it is almost like not eating like the younger calf with the parent
Right.
calf.
I do
But
understand. I mean,
in this other parsha, because the meaning is supposed to be, if you let the mother live, the mother can have more eggs. If you
Right.
kill her, so but the idea, well, I'm saying, but the mitzvah is, it's considered an important mitzvah. The fact
Right.
that the mother gets chased away and that you don't take her with the
you know what I
eggs.
find interesting? Would anybody ever think of boiling their kid in its mother's milk before this? That's what I'd like to know. Why would he have to even say this? What person would ever think of doing that?
Hmm.
Good question. That's a really good question.
I really thought about
It
this.
could
Like,
be something that like is prohibited just because like other people did it.
yeah,
you know,
I say, oh my God, somebody
not for
actually
any
did
other
that,
reason,
but he has
you
to
know?
make that statement, you know? I think that's
Yeah.
really
Right.
interesting.
It might have been a delicacy for some
Yeah.
people
Oh
in
God,
the
that's
land,
horrible.
you know? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it might have been. Who knows?
Because you figure all the other stuff we were being told not to eat, other people would probably
Right.
eat it. Right?
It was
Yeah,
wild.
that's probably.
Oh, well, where am I now?
I don't remember where we were. Do you
You,
remember?
you
Rafi?
said you said the 21, the bottom of 21.
Oh, the bottom 21. Okay,
That's
thank
right.
you.
22.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, 22. You shall not set aside every year a tenth. I mean, you shall set aside every year a tenth part of all the yield of your sowing that is brought from the field. You shall consume the tithes of your new grain and wine and oil, and the firstlings of your herds and flocks, in the presence of the eternal your God, in the place where God will choose to establish the divine name, so that you may learn to revere the eternal your God forever. Should the
Can we
distance
stop
be-
here for a second?
Yeah,
I've just noticed this for the first time in my life, and it's amazing to me because it says you shall consume what you're offering God, doesn't it? If you could back up.
Oh yeah, you're right. I hear you
It's
now.
amazing. I'm amazed because it's like you shall consume
Consume the
the
tithes.
tithe. So everyone's going to give 10%, right? The idea
Right.
is 10%. We have it in Christianity, we have it in Judaism,
Right.
10% of whatever we have. But then we can, in this one, it's like we can consume it in the presence of
Yeah.
God.
Well,
Wow.
in those days, anyways, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's almost
exactly.
like bring your own lunch, right?
Yeah, bring your own lunch.
God tells you to bring it, and then when you bring it to God, God says, "I don't need this stuff. You can have
Yeah,
it.
you go eat it, right?
I just wanted you to bring it to show you that you're following my laws."
Right.
Absolutely
All right, we have to
beautiful.
go back up to the
Beautiful.
next. Where you went backwards, you have to go
Oh,
back
okay.
up now.
Wait a second. Wait until the thing goes up.
We already finished this. Okay. So where did I end? Let me see. You may convert. Okay, no. Should the distance be too great for you? Should you be unable to transport them because the place where the eternal your God has chosen to establish the divine name is far from you, and because the eternal your God has blessed you, you may convert them into money. Wrap up the money and take it with you to the place that the eternal your God has chosen, and spend the money on anything you want: cattle, sheep, wine, or other intoxicants, or anything you may desire. You shall feast there in the presence of the eternal your God and rejoice with your household. So if you're not even that far away, you can, I gather, instead of having the food, you get money. I don't know, like wrap up the money.
No, I think it's that if you are far away and it's too much for you to bring all the stuff, you can sell it and then you bring the money, and then when you get near the place, you can buy whatever you
Whatever
choose.
you need, yeah, I understand. But do not neglect the family of the Levite in your community, for he has no hereditary portion as you have. Every third year you shall bring out the full tithe of your yield of that year, but leave it within your settlements. Then the family of the Levite who has no hereditary portion, as you have, and the stranger and the fatherless and the widow in your settlement shall come and eat their fill, so the eternal your God may bless you in all the enterprises you undertake. I want to stop here because this means a lot to me personally, because my mother was a widow. And one of the things that, and this is way before welfare, my father died in 1951, and I was 5 years old. And I remember so many people helping out my mother because she was a widow. And it was really very important in those days that people helped out widows. And I think it comes from this whole passage about that, you know, if you're fatherless, if, you know, you're a widow, if, you know, I just think it's so important because we forget all this. Everybody's so kind of misery sometimes that we forget about that these are very important things. The widow didn't plan to be a widow. She didn't plan to not have as much food for her family and everything. And I think this is really, it means a lot to me because my mother never asked for anything. She started working when I was like 5 years old, which was very unusual in 1951. And she had a very hard life and she never complained and she made sure we had food on our table and everything. But she always was very grateful to all the people that helped her out along the way. And I never forgot that. So that's why that passage means a lot to me.
I was a
Beautiful.
widower. I used to be jealous because the Torah didn't say anything about widowers. You know?
What'd you say that they didn't say anything about what?
It says to the stranger, the widow, not the widower. What if you're
Oh, the widow. Well, yeah,
Just
you're right.
throwing
That's
that out
discriminating. You're right.
that.
You're
But
right.
I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's the Torah.
Every
it's
seventh-
supposed to
Every
be.
7th year, you shall practice remission of debts.
Oh, can I do before we get into the 7th year? Also, along with the widows, and that's a beautiful passage. I loved your story there. That was
Yeah.
about your mom. God bless you. I didn't know you lost your dad at age 5. Wow.
Yeah, you
So
did.
sorry. So the other thing I wanted to point out was the Levite portion, right? And don't neglect the Levite. I wanted to talk a little bit about the priest. The idea of priest in a community is so important that maybe technically in the last 20 years, priests have gotten a lot of, bad press, and maybe rightly so. But there is an important part. There's an element of society that really, I feel, needs a priest, needs the Levite, needs the rabbi. And what this is pulling out too is reminding me of George Washington when he was establishing the army for the Continental Congress and fighting the British. There was a passage that he sent to the Continental Congress saying he realized he didn't have like a reverend or a priest in Valley Forge, and he immediately wrote a letter saying we've got to get a reverend in here immediately, because it's almost like fighting a war without bullets. You got to have a reverend. I mean, that's George Washington. It's like pretty intensely spiritual and religious. But I think it's so important that they all, the Torah also says that the Levite's not going to get any of this inheritance or hereditary portion, right? So they're not going to have the land or anything else. And I want to jump ahead a little bit too, because in the when David was talking about establishing the kingdom, the first group of people that were going to be the leaders in the when he was going to establish the temple of the kingdom, which he was going to Solomon, his son. The first group of leaders were the Levites, were the rabbis, and that was the most important group of people to be first. And then the second group is what? What's the second group? I'll give you
Kohanes. The Kohanes.
Yeah, if there's singers, singing and playing the harps. And Gary's the second.
But I want to.
Gary gets the first too.
I want to correct you about one thing, Michael. When you keep on saying the Levites are rabbis, that's not true. The Levites are not rabbis, so you got to get that straight right now.
The
Okay.
priest.
The Levites were a specific group that were priests, that had abstention from doing the things that the regular people did because they had other things they had to do. But a rabbi today is just a teacher. Just remember that. He has a pulpit and everything, but he's no more than anybody else. But the Levites were priests, which in the ancient days when there were priests, not the type of priests that are Catholic priests today. The priests had certain responsibilities that were very holy. And that's why they didn't have the the common things to do, and that's why they had food put aside for them, because they were doing other things. But rabbis have nothing to do with being a Levite. You could be, I'm sorry, you could be a Levite, you could be a rabbi and come from a Levite family, but rabbis have nothing to do with the Levites they're talking about in the Torah.
Thank you for that clarification. That's great.
Okay.
So it means that the temple has to be reestablished to have the Levites back in position?
Yeah, well, the Levites were appointed as holy people that were able to go into places that were holy that other people couldn't go into.
They carried the tabernacle.
They carried the tabernacle. They had very
stuff.
spiritual responsibilities, and they were from the Levite family. And yes, there are Jews that go back to being a Levite. I think even Rabbi Kudan comes from either a Kohen or a Levite.
He's a Kohen.
He's a Kohen, right?
But I wouldn't
So
go to him
that's
if I had
different.
leprosy, though. Oh.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that they had very specific spiritual holiness that they were responsible for. But rabbis today have nothing to do with that. You understand what I'm saying, Mike?
Yeah, I'm following. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. I wanted you to
Okay.
understand.
Let me ask you a question. What?
Yeah.
The difference between a Kohen and a Levite is there? What is the difference there? I just don't know.
Oh gosh, I think maybe Gary can give you a better answer.
I don't know.
I'm
The
not really-
Kohens are Levi. I mean, they're all Levites.
Well, they're both priests. If my husband was alive, he could explain it better. But there is a difference. But they're both priests. Yeah. But there is a difference of their response. I don't really understand that, to be honest. I never studied it enough. I had a very smart husband who unfortunately is not with us anymore, who could have answered a lot of these questions.
Well, I always go back to the fact that I feel like without Judaism, we wouldn't have any religion. I mean, honestly.
But what you're
And,
talking
I
about,
feel-
Mike, is the fact that I mean, in the general sense, that they needed that spiritual connection, you know.
Yeah, they needed
Back in
that
those days, George Washington talked to his troops about God. If anybody in today's military did that, they'd be court-martialed
Right,
and executed, shot by
Right.
a firing squad. You know.
You know, I'm going to let somebody else read. I need to just leave for a second, and I'd rather have somebody continue to read. Is that okay? I'm not leaving I just have to move into another room for a second. Okay.
That is quite all right.
Okay.
It's the
So-
underground. You could do as you wish.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think where people are going to start is from every 7th year is where whoever wants to take over.
The Shemitah.
And I'll put little Rudy on for a second. There you go.
There it is. Shemitah, right there.
I can read a
I
little
can't
bit.
see the writing. I can't see the writing. It's too small. Can you make it bigger?
Let's say, I don't know how much, let's say, is that good? Let's say.
Okay,
There you go.
that's better.
Oh, wait
I
a
can
second.
try.
Wait. Oh, shoot. Wait a second. I know this thing is so delicate. It's so weird. Wait a second. Yeah, every 7th year. There it is. Every 7th year.
But then it's not easy.
Oh, every 7th year, you shall practice. Okay, all right. We'll try that. Every 7th year, you shall practice remission of debts. This shall be the nature of the
Remission? Yeah.
remission. All creditors shall remit the due that they claim from their fellow Israelites. They shall not done their fellow Israelites or kin, for the remission proclaimed is the eternal. You may I can't see it that good, but I think it's done or due the forgiver, but you must remit whatever is due you from your kin. There shall be no needy among you, since the eternal your God will bless you in the land that the eternal your God is giving you as an hereditary portion. If only you heed the eternal your God and take care to keep all this instruction that I enjoin upon you this day. For the eternal your God will bless you as promised. You will extend loans to many nations, but require none yourself. You will demonstrate many nations, but they will not dominate you. Should I continue?
Sure.
Okay. Now I want you to let you know I'm struggling reading this, but I can read it a lot better than I could before. However, there is a needy person among you, one of your kin in any of your settlements in the land that the eternal your God is giving you. Do not burden your heart and shut your hand against your needy kin. Rather, you must open your hand and lend whatever is sufficient to meet the need. Beware lest your harbor the base foe. The seventh year, the year of remission, is approaching, so that you are mean and give nothing to your needy kin, who will cry out to the eternal against you, and you will incur guilt. Give, and it's let's see, readily and have no regrets when you do so, for in return the eternal your God will bless you in all your efforts and in all your undertakings, for there will never cease to be needy ones in your land, which is why I command you, open your hand to the poor and needy kin in your land.
There's somebody talking in the background.
I don't know
They
who
can-
nobody is. It's just
It's
echoing.
partially if we're not all muted. It's
Oh, yeah,
a
it might be
feedback
coming
I'm
through
here
as-
all alone and nothing's on.
But isn't it amazing too? Like that, isn't it amazing that the Bible says here there will. Okay, so I'm just reading this. I mean, it's amazing to me that it says that there will never cease to be needy ones in your land. There always will be needy, right? That's
And
amazing.
that's true.
Yeah, there's always going to be needy. Yet still, God commands us, open your hand to the poor, always. And then look at the top line. Have no regrets when you do so. Have no regrets. I mean, I'm preaching this to myself as much as anybody else. It's like, how many times have I had regrets? Oh, I don't know if I should give this guy a buck. I don't know. But it's like, just give it away and have no regrets. It doesn't matter.
And then also that God will bless you in return. It's like the law of karma. The more you give, the more you get.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hallelujah.
I
Hallelujah.
agree with you 100%, Monique.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
You shall reap what you sow.
Does anybody else want to read, or?
I can read a little bit.
All right. There you go.
If a fellow Hebrew man or woman is sold to you, he shall serve you 6 years, and in the 7th year you shall set him free. When you set him free, do not let him go empty-handed. Furnish him out of the flock, threshing floor and vat with which the Eternal your God has blessed you. Bear in mind that you were slaves in the land of Egypt, and the Eternal your God redeemed you. Therefore, I enjoy this commandment upon you today.
Just before we go on, I just want to mention something. Do you notice it says, if a fellow Hebrew man or woman is sold to you? I want to know what happens if it's not a Hebrew man or woman. I mean, that kind of concerns me. Like, is it a difference? Anybody
I
want to?
take it as it's only supposed to be 6 years if it's a Hebrew man or woman, but if it's not, I think I should think that it was different. Because why would they say that?
I don't know. That's my question. That's why it's a question. That's all. It's just a question. I just thought it was interesting when it says if it's a fellow Hebrew man or woman. So I'm saying, what if it wasn't a fellow Hebrew man or woman?
We don't
That's
know. I think we don't know enough.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll
Right.
go on.
Well,
Just
also I'm thinking of Jacob and how he was kind of in servitude to Laban back in Genesis. You know, it's like, is this kind of like lines up with that? But I do know when we talk about, there was I think it might have been Numbers or another book where it talked about sometimes the slave wants to be with the master for life, and they say it and they state it.
Yeah. I
Remember that?
understand.
Yeah. But anyway, this is interesting to me because
Yeah.
I'm thinking of,
Okay.
yeah.
Right,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think,
there you
you
go.
know what I think? I think that if you were Hebrew, that you were, if there's someone owned that slave, that person was slave for life unless the master let them go. But if you're Hebrew, then you only could keep them for 6 years. That's what I think. I
And when
mean,
you let him go, you're supposed to give him sustenance, you know.
You're supposed to give them sustenance and good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't just say, all right, 6 years are up, get the hell out of here.
All right. Well, continue on, Monique.
Okay, but shall he say to you, I do not want to leave you, for he loves you and your household and is happy with you. You shall take an awl and put it through his ear into the door, and he shall become your slave in perpetuity. Do the same with your female slave. When you do set, could you raise it up a little bit?
Yeah.
You bring it up a little. Yeah.
There you go. Oh,
A little more?
There you go.
When you do set either one free, do not feel aggrieved, for in the 6 years you have been given double the service of a hired worker. Moreover, the Eternal your God will bless you in all that you do. You shall consecrate to the Eternal your God all male firstlings that are born in your herd and in your flock. You must not work your firstling ox or shear your firstling sheep. You and your household shall eat it annually before the Eternal your God in the place the Eternal will choose. But if it has a defect, lameness, or blindness, any serious defect, you shall not sacrifice it to the Eternal your God. Eat it in your settlements, the impure among you no less than the pure, just like the gazelle and the deer. Only you must not partake of its blood. You shall pour it out on the ground like water. Observe the month of Abib and offer a Passover sacrifice to the Eternal your God, for it was in the month of Abib at night that the Eternal your God freed you from Egypt. You shall slaughter the Passover sacrifice for the Eternal your God from the flock and the herd in the place where the Eternal will choose to establish the divine name. You shall not eat anything leavened with it for 7 days. Therefore you shall eat unleavened bread of distress, for you departed from the land of Egypt hurriedly, so that you may remember the day of your departure from the land of Egypt as long as you live. For 7 days no leaven shall be found within you in all your territory, and none of the flesh of what you slaughter on the evening of the first day should be left until morning. You are not permitted to slaughter the Passover sacrifice in any of the settlements that the Eternal your God is giving you, but at the place where the Eternal your God will choose to establish the divine name, there alone shall you slaughter the Passover sacrifice in the evening at sundown, the time of day when you departed from Egypt. You shall cook and eat it at the place that the Eternal your God will choose, and in the morning you may start back on your journey home. After eating unleavened bread 6 days, you shall hold a solemn gathering for the eternal your God on the seventh day. You shall do no work. You shall count off 7 weeks, start to count the 7 weeks when the sickle is first put to the standing grain. Then you shall observe the Feast of Weeks for the eternal your God, offering your freewill contribution according as the eternal your God has blessed you. You shall rejoice before the eternal your God with your son and daughter, your male and female slave, the family of the Levite in your communities, and the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow in your midst, at the place where the eternal your God will choose to establish a divine name. Bear in mind that you were slaves in Egypt and take care to obey these laws. After the ingathering from your threshing floor in your vat, you shall hold the Feast of Booths for 7 days. You shall rejoice in your festival with your son, your daughter, your male and female slave, the family of the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow in your communities. You shall hold a festival for the eternal your God 7 days in the place that the eternal will choose, for the eternal your God will bless all your crops and all your undertakings, and then you shall have nothing but joy. 3 times a year on the feast of unleavened bread, on the feast of weeks, and on the feast of booths, all your males shall appear before the eternal your God in the place that God will choose. They shall not appear before the eternal empty-handed, but each with his own gift, according to the blessing that the eternal your God has bestowed upon you.
That's it.
Amen.
Whoa. Thank you. This was wonderful. This is great.
Wow.
I love it. I love it.
Could I say something?
Stuff.
What I think, especially this last passage, especially where it was about pilgrimage, that when we go to the temple in the high holidays and we experience them in some of these, today showing up and being at the temple and preparing for the high holidays, this is our pilgrimage. We do it today.
That's
And
right.
by doing that, and if we do it sincerely, I should think that we are reaching the depths of our souls.
Very
Yeah, well,
nice.
in this
That's what I
context,
want
they're talking about, Passover, Shavuot, and
It's covering a
Sukkot.
lot of the
But,
holidays.
but we're coming up to the high holidays, so it made me think of that. And when we do all the other things,
Yeah. It is very true, Janice. You're right.
Well,
We're
Sukkot
preparing
is
for
part of
all the
the
holidays, right?
right.
Is
Sukkot,
this
and
is this
that's a
Deuteronomy?
pilgrimage.
Which book is this?
This is
Deuteronomy.
Yeah.
Deuteronomy?
This is Deuteronomy, yes.
Okay.
Divarim.
Devarim, yeah.
I
Well,
think
this was
it's
a
awesome
wonderful,
too.
wonderful pasha. We all got a lot
it
out of
was a wonderful
Great
person.
pasha.
And do you notice that the Eternal says to be joyful? I love that command.
You see it right here? Chag HaMatzot, Uchag
Yeah.
HaShavuot, Uchag HaSukkot.
Right. That was
There it is.
in English.
Yes,
It's on
it's
the
such a good
previous page, I think.
Yeah.
And that we don't really see that much, I mean, even in Christianity, I don't think we see that too much, but it's so fantastic. I always feel like Christianity should develop, should dig into these holidays that we kind of ignore, because it's like, I feel like we're missing out, especially, getting into the booths and whatnot.
What I always wanted to know about Christians that you can help me with, Mike, if indeed, Jesus was Jewish and you accepted everything in Jesus, I didn't know why you didn't follow all our holidays too. See, what I don't understand is it doesn't make sense to me that you could believe in Jesus and everything, but I don't understand why everything wasn't continued. That's what I never understood.
Well, I've got the perfect answer. I don't understand it either.
Okay.
And I was raised in it. I was raised Catholic.
Yes,
So
I
it's a very I don't know, unique part of Christianity. It's kind of like the
Right.
original Christian, and it was
Right.
based a lot on Judaism. So I don't know why we don't do
Right.
that. But
I always wanted to know why, if because Jesus was Christian, and if he was resurrected now, he'd go to the temple. You see, so what I
that's right. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
So what I don't understand is that I understand if they, you want to believe that, Jesus was your Messiah. I'm not having a question about that, but I don't understand why you gave up all the other stuff. That